Great. Thanks so much, Emily. I really appreciate it. And welcome to everyone. So we're going to basically kind of do a whistle stop tour of a little bit of kind of why Hazelnut is the way it is, both from Lucy and myself. And then I'd love to have lots of questions here as well. So let's hope that we kind of get into questions fairly quickly because I'd love to use this time for questions. So Hazelnut, there's a link on our website that can kind of give you the long history of where we came from. But it's interesting. I think one of the things that really formed us is me coming late to the eco conversation. So it was only well into my curacy and well in my early 40s where I made that transition from seeing the issues around climate emergency as one of the top 10 issues. So I was never someone that was just like a denier, but I just saw climate emergency as like, how do I do this? And how do we talk about racism? And how do we talk about poverty? And how do we talk about all these things that seem so huge? You know, it just was in this whole list of like, wow, I don't know how to even process some of this. I'll just do the best I can. And that's when I went to a city farm and had what Pope Francis would call a climate conversion, where I saw that this is kind of the issue for our age. It's not to say that other issues aren't important or that don't need to be addressed. It's just that climate emergency is the issue that will be pressuring all the other issues that we have. Racism will increase in an age of climate emergency. Issues around border control and migration is going to increase. Issues around, obviously, around food and poverty. These are all issues that will increase. And so we need to be addressing this. And honestly, we do need to have a holistic approach. But we just said this is like the issue that we really want to work really hard on. And all these other things will come under that as well. So, but because I was like late to the story, it was really interesting to kind of go from, John, whatever, to like all of a sudden Eco John. And people were just a bit like, what's going on, man? Like you're just new to this. And it just felt like I couldn't express my heart for it because I wasn't radical enough fast enough, or I hadn't been doing it long enough. And actually, I think I was reflecting on it and thinking, like, man, we need a whole lot of people to be interested in eco stuff, to be caring for this planet in a very short amount of time. We need to create spaces where people can come on board and start growing and experiencing it at their own rate. Does that kind of make sense? So that's kind of one of the things that's really formed Hazelnut is that it's a place for people to be able to come and engage just where they're at, and then grow from there as well. The other thing that's really been a big deal for us is just to say that if we really say that we're in a climate emergency, so Diocese of Bristol, Church of England, was the first diocese within the Church of England to declare climate emergency. And you see this happening loads and loads of other places. And I was like, if you really are serious about saying that we're in a climate emergency, it means it can't be business as normal. If we're in a time of emergency, then we need to be doing things differently and reassessing how we do things. But one of the key things for me is this belief that it's not about kingdom building for Hazelnut. I know we're at the Hazelnut conference, or talking about Hazelnut, but it's about sharing out and giving away as much as we can and allowing people to come and work together and really deep collaborations where we're sharing. So part of the reason is why this conference is co-hosted with a number of people as well. So those are some of the things that are deeply in our bones as an organization. And then the other thing too is as we've kind of gone about this creation of a community farm, and really we don't have animals at the moment, they're community gardens, is seeing working land as a spiritual exercise, and not seeing it just as a metaphor or seeing it something that's a side piece to what we do as church, but seeing it ingrained as a piece of church, ingrained as an act of worship and an act of us as a church. And it's been allowed us to have this, all of a sudden, this rich experience of theology, re-encountering. So an example of that would be, just even the incarnation of Christ coming into earth, living a life that is a human experience within the context of earth. It kind of takes on new meaning and stuff as well. All those stories where Jesus is sharing in the parables and creation story, all comes together. Even the fact that it starts with a tree, it ends with a tree, it's all over the Bible. And it just is for us to like have our eyes open and see that creation is a part of our context, is really important to God and how God has created us. So, if anything, we've encountered, some people would say, well, are you church? And is your theology really rich? I think we'd say that like we are a church and our theology has gone deeper and we feel like we've really encountered Christ more. So I'll kind of I think that's just a couple things to, kind of let you know a bit about us. But in terms of like engagement, which is really what we want to talk about today, there's some different things that we're doing that we're hoping that people can use on maybe just a donation basis and really get involved with. So the first thing that is, you're at it, like our conference, like we love to do this. This is our second year of doing it. We started this within the whole age of coronavirus and stuff. And we're finding that even though I'm already loving this conference, we're still wanting to reimagine it for next year and actually say like, we want to be people of land. And if it's just on Zoom, there's still something that's not quite 100% what we want to do here. But we believe that Zoom is important because it can bring people together from all different walks of life and all over. So what we're thinking about is reimagining this conference with local conversations and connections to land, as well as an online element. And so we're kind of, as a team, we're just going to be kind of reimagining what that can be like. So watch this space for next year and what that can look like as well. The second thing on the back of this is on the back of the conference is we're going to have continuing ongoing conversations on Zoom. We call those, this is Sustaining Church, we call those Sustaining Conversations. And we're going to do those in collaboration with Green Christian, Operation Noah, Praxis, who does the Hopeful Activists, and Arasha UK. And so the idea is, again, to have collaboration at our heart. And so what we're hoping is that we have only like maybe 4 to 5 of those conversations over the course of the year between now and the next conference. But they're really substantial places of meeting as well. So really good input from maybe one speaker, but also a place to share testimonies and a place to share action. So you hear people's stories and how they're engaged with land around those conversations as well. So that's the next thing we're hoping to do. And, those will all be on Zoom. You can join in as well. Again, those are just donation only. Now, more kind of specific to you is the what we're calling the growing course. So what we thought is there's loads of great courses out there. There's no question, especially around eco stuff. But there's a lot of great courses that start with science or start with theology, and they're great. And what we're trying to do is just say those are great, but there's another voice that we want to bring into it. And that's starting with land and rediscovering and engaging with land. So we're going to write a 6-week course that is going to be very action orientated and very nature focused. Again, it'll still be Christian. It'll still be dealing with climate emergency, but it'll be about, things like planting seeds together. It'll be things making candles out of beeswax, things like that are very tangible. And then the idea is that can be used any time of the year, and it can be molded to your community. So it could be used at a muddy church. It could be used at a forest church, at a church service, at an old folks home. And then in time, what we want is to have bolt-ons where it can be based in season as well. So you can get pieces of that and start at any time based on the season as well. So we're basically writing that now, and we're hoping to launch in September a beta course so we can test it. So have groups who are keen to take a really rough draft and say, I have enough experience to have a go at this, and then give us feedback. And then so that by the new year, we can start working out the kinks and saying, this worked, this didn't work. So that this time next year, we have a flushed out course with experience through it as well. Any questions about those things or what I've just said? Sorry, we only got 25 minutes, so I want to just kind of crack on. Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll hand it over to Lucy, and she'll tell you about Potting Shed.
Yeah, great. So I've seen 1 or 2 people here who actually were on Potting Shed last year, so good to see. So yes, I'm Lucy. As Emily introduced me, I've just finished my curacy. I lead a church in Sheffield, and I got dragged into Hazelnut because I was stuck in the middle of this estate, moved onto an estate, second year of my curacy, and we didn't have a church building, and you couldn't meet inside anyway. and I heard about the things he was doing, involving in nature and growing and being outside, and I thought, oh, we could try that. So essentially the potting shed course came out of me stealing ideas from John and then thinking, well, why don't we let other people steal those ideas as well? So that was potting shed. So we ran it for the first time this year. We did a kind of quite a long course, and it was fantastic. We got to know some really great people and projects. We heard from so many experts in their field, and it was incredible. We've now revised the course so we can run it twice a year in a shorter, kind of more flexible way. So I've got a little presentation to explain. There we go. Present. Fab. So back to the game. So the course this year is starting on the 27th of September. It's a 6-week course with a week's break for October half term. And so essentially, what does it offer? It offers for communities who are looking to start or develop existing growing projects or community gardens as expressions of church. We hope to provide practical, theological, ecological and missional support and inspiration for you and your team. It's weekly online sessions, so they run from 7 until 9:30 each week. And they involve a talk from some experts, one or multiple experts, depending on the week. And we have discussion time and Q&A as well as part of that. It provides the opportunity to connect with other people who are doing similar things to you. This year, we made a real effort to put people in groups in their geographical areas so people could meet up with one another and support one another and see what else is going on locally to them. We also this year are adding on, we have a library of videos and resources that will be available to you. And also we are going to put together a sort of questions discussion resource for you if you have a team in your context to go away and chat through kind of how these things apply to your context. So just a quick overview, I won't go through it all, but this is what the sessions are going to look like this year. Just running through kind of it sort of summarizes things we did in the last course into broader swathes, and then after each course there'll be opportunities to go through our catalogue of videos and resources, so you can look more deeply into things that you want to. So for example, week 2 mission fields will have talks from people in different contexts, but if you're really particularly interested in rural congregations, then we'll give you a few videos and resources for you to go away and explore after that. So the hope is it's quicker as a course, but it is more tailored to your context. And then these are the additional resources that I mentioned earlier. The library of resources will include the things from this conference, in case you missed anything, as well as things from last year's course and other things as well that we've collected. So if you'd like to join, we have a sign up on the website, which the link is really annoying. So just go on the website and find Potting Shed in the what we do and click it, and there's a sign up link at the bottom. I tried to do a thing, but it was just too difficult. And for cost as well, John mentioned that a lot of these things we don't want cost to be a barrier. We don't want to say this is something you have to pay for, but at the same time it's not free for us to put it on. So we tend to suggest that it's about £20 per person, but if that's too much for you, then do not worry at all. If you can donate anything, that's wonderful. If you can donate nothing, that's fine as well. And we don't ask you to pay when you sign up. We just give you a link to the website to donate as and when you can. I'll stop my share, and I think we will jump to questions about all of that now.
I've actually got one more quick thing.
Okay.
So just to say on the other thing that we do after Potting Shed, and we have this thing called the Growing Collective, and that's our network of growing groups. A lot of them that come through the Potting Shed are moving on to that. And that's like, so we've got about 13 different groups all over the UK. Like we've got people connected to cathedrals, to estates. We've got Anglicans, non-Anglicans, loads of different denominations, loads of different churchmanship as well. And we're all open to that as well. But it's basically a friendship kind of linked up way of supporting things. So for instance, we're going to meet in September and talk about, well, how do you worship in cold weather? And we'll have some input and discussions. So again, it becomes a place where we can feed wisdom into one another. We're not asking people to take on the Hazelnut name. There's no governance or finances. It's you doing you, and we're just like a conduit in which to bring everyone together. And that's called the Growing Collective. That's like our network. Whew, we got there, Lucy. That was quite a lot. Yeah, thanks everyone for listening to our whistle stop tour. But let's get on to questions.
Can I ask, do you envisage the potting shed course? Do you envisage that mostly for groups to do together or for individuals, or does it not really matter?
Last year it was a real combination. So essentially you can come on your own. That's absolutely fine. You can join the online sessions as a group. That's absolutely fine. Or you can come on your own, but then some of the discussion questions or resources can be shared with people in your community or church. So a combination, whatever works best for your context. We know some people are just starting off on their own, so we don't want it just to be for groups, but equally we know some people, they've got 10 people really eager and raring to go, so it really is flexible. Yeah,
I think the one thing I would say is that if you have a dream for something you want to do, you'll get the best out of it. So it's not, if you just want to come along, connect with others, it really works for what you kind of want to do. If you have an idea you want to do, that's the best.
Yeah, Vanessa, go ahead.
I just want to ask John, do you envisage your network being solely for groups that are hands-on in soil? I've got a small group of us who, I guess we've come from more an activist stance. We're a network of Christians who are sort of realised we're in a mega crisis on many levels. So I just wondered how you envisage your network. Is it for groups that are really addressing this through this hands-on re-engagement with land?
That's a really good question. So we have a group that is loosely more engaged with nature, Wild Church in Wiltshire, that is engaged with nature. So they're meeting outside, but they don't really grow things. And we've still had a really good connection with them, and that's worked really well. So we're open to that conversation. We will talk quite a lot about growing, but I think if the group is wanting to rediscover nature, and if that was like through walking or through as you're saying, kind of a group that is more in politically involved, that could still be a really amazing connection.
Yeah, the sustaining conversations you've mentioned, organizations like Operation Noah, which isn't hands-on soil and praxis. So I'm just wondering if that level is where you might connect if you're more in that space.
Yeah, I think one of our things we're wanting to make those links as well. So that's, if you find a house there rather than with us, that's like really fine with us. We want you to flourish wherever you're at. But if there might be some places where there could be overlap as well, we're really open to that. So it could be maybe we just have a chat or a Zoom call and hear more about what you're doing and see if it's the right thing. But yeah, they're obviously doing amazing things as well. So we want to encourage people to check that out as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. There's probably something to talk about with the sustaining conversations, but I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, we can always have a Zoom too. Drop me an email through our website, and we can always chat more.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Emily. I'm a second year curate, and I've literally just today, our church has put in our application for our bronze eco church level. Yeah. So we don't have anything specifically in mind that would totally connect in with what you were saying, but it's obviously an area of interest to me and a number of members of the church. Should we wait till we have a particular project in mind and maybe go next year and for the potting shed, or should we do it now in hope it might inspire us?
I think that would depend on what you want to get out of it. I think last year, it literally ended like 5 weeks ago. At the last course, we had a combination. Some people who were just looking at it as an inspiration piece, and some people who really were going along the practical and spiritual things with it. I was hoping to run 2 a year, so I would maybe say get your team together, get inspired, and maybe join us in the spring. I think that would probably be the best. I think, yeah, there is the inspiration piece there, but I think it works best if you've got a plot of land or a bit of a project or something that you're looking to really to grab hold of. I'm not saying don't join in September, do if you'd like to, but I think maybe spring might be better. Yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing, just to say, Emma, that we just speak to a lot of churches. So a lot of churches will reach out to us, and if you ever, I do a lot of Zooms where I'm just kind of throwing out ideas. So even if maybe I just believe that inaction is where the ideas come. So there's loads of things you can do to kind of get warmed up, you know, and it sounds like going through Eco Church, you're already on the way. So I mean, again, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. There's loads of resources on our website as well that you can use and take anything. So examples of things you could just do would be like, we think Chris Dingle's a bit weird because why? Anyway, and that probably because I'm American. So we've reimagined, we call it Chris Dingle Reimagined, where we do it on fire pits. We had like 100 people at one of our sites gathering on fire pits, hearing the Christmas story in a really different way. You could do that. We have prayer resources that you could just put your own symbol on it, your own logo on it, put in your garden for people who walk through your garden. So we're just kind of trying to give all these things away so that church can say, I could do some of those things. So hopefully that's helpful as well.
The other resource that I think worked really well for us warming up to until we got our land was there's a resource on there called Rewilding Your Windows. And that really helped us. So it was essentially, it was during lockdown, we went around all our families, dropped off seed packets and growing guides, and everyone grew pots on their windows. And the idea was that they would all then get put in our community garden once we got it. That didn't actually happen, but it was still a nice way of engaging people in growing, even though we weren't doing it all in one place. So that could be a good little warm up, kind of figure out whether people are interested. Yeah.
Yeah, Emma, go ahead, unmute yourself. And
hi, I'm really excited by everything that you've shared. I'm curious to know, it sounds like this is a really kind of intergenerational, like it could be a really child-friendly way of doing church. I'd just love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, you start, Lucy.
Okay, just very briefly, yes, basically yes. We found that getting kids engaged in, so we essentially, when we first started Wild Church, what we call our sort of gatherings, when we started Wild Church, it was great for kids in that, you know, they could get muddy, run around, all of those things, but actually focusing them was even better when we started growing things together, because it gave them something to do, something to care for, something to come back and check on. And it's just that's been really helpful for us in our congregation. And also there's so many good resources on outdoor worship. Like, you know, I've got like 5 books and you just, you know, pick what suits your plan the best that week. But yeah, I think growing in particular has been a real treat for our young people, definitely.
At Hazelnut Bristol, we've had so many families come along, but I think what we've done is we've not done traditional Sunday school. So we don't actually say anything is, oh, now we're gonna do a kids thing and now an adults thing. What we've done saying it's all open to anyone. And so in a sense, instead of coming to a traditional church, which we don't knock, this is something different, sit alongside it. Instead of coming in, everyone does what's at the front. That even happens in a Sunday school. It's a bit of choose your own adventure. So the craft isn't a kid's craft. It's a craft that anyone can do. And we found that maybe adult wants to come and have a chat one-on-one with somebody and they can do that, or a kid, you know, but sometimes kids want to water. And so that choose your own adventure element of it has helped with people who are coming with different needs. So one week they might feel introverted, the next week extroverted, they can choose what they need. It's fun to help with people that are neurodiverse to be able to find the parameters that work for them to be able to worship. It's also helped, yeah, with whole families being able to join in together and feel like they're doing something. So, and a lot of part of that too is around, we do a lot around symbolism. So it's like our communion is around a picnic table. One of the things we do is we hide the wine in the beds. and the kids have to go find it. But the symbolism is saying Jesus came into earth, not from a back room somewhere. It's not just mystical. Jesus was human. Do you know what I mean? And so it's those types of things that that we kind of do that, you know, engage a bit more as well. So absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, John and Lucy. It's really brief time together, but lots of ideas, lots of ways to get involved. I hope that's been really helpful for all of you who've come along. Thank you for your participation. We're going to have a brief few minutes break, and if you are looking to stay in this room, we're having Tim Watson from Arosha coming to speak to us about restoring devastated places. So if you're here for that, if not, have a look at some of our other rooms that are available, and see you soon. Thank you.